So now it's time for today's presentation, and I'd like to hand over to Karen. The floor, or should I say, Karen, the screen is yours, and we look forward to this presentation. I'm very glad to say where I am today, it's not raining, so obviously it's a topical presentation for you all. I'll turn my mic and camera off, and I'll catch up with you all at the end for the Q&A.
Thanks so much, Nicola, and a big thanks to yourself and Ernie for the platform today, and in particular, thank you for everybody for logging in today to our UV toolbox talk for outdoor workers. And quite rightly, like Nicola has mentioned, I think it is very topical, not only because the weather is quite sunny out, well, where I am anyway, but just because of the time of year it is, and the detail that I'll go through will kind of explain quite a lot why it's important for these coming months to be UV protected. So I'll go straight into things. You can see my screen. So UV and our skin. So our body creates a vitamin D from direct sunlight, and it helps the body absorb calcium phosphate from our diet, and it's important for healthy bones, teeth and muscles. So UV is ultraviolet light. It is emitted from the sun. It's a form of radiation that comes from the sun, but it also comes from other sources. So we'll be familiar with tanning beds, but also welding torches will emit a UV radiation. So it's important that we take note of that. The human skin does contain a pigment called melanin, which functions to block damaging UV rays. So it's our body's internal safety net, basically, to protect ourselves from the sun. And it's important also to note that exposure to UV damages the DNA in the skin cells, producing genetic defects, mutations that can lead to skin cancer and premature aging. What you can see on the screen is the types of UV. So pretty much what you have is this spectrum of light, and on one end you can see visible light, and then you can see the types of radiation that is emitted. So you've got UVA, which can cause sunburn, wrinkling to the skin, premature aging and skin cancers. UVB, which can cause sunburn and skin cancer, and then UVC, which again can cause burns and skin cancer. And the difference between them is basically the different layers that they affect. So about 95% of UVA rays actually hit us on the ground here. They can obviously cause skin cancers, but generally not fatal skin cancers such as melanoma. UVB is when you actually see burning to the top layer of your skin. And from UVB, you get about 5% that reaches us here on the ground. There is 95% that's absorbed by the Earth's ozone layer, but it's a higher risk of cancer, and it can cause many different types of cancers. And UVC, it doesn't actually hit us here on the ground at all. It's absorbed completely by the Earth's ozone layer. However, artificial lights such as the arc weld will subject it to UVC radiation. UV is important to us. It is something that we need. It provides warmth and light that enhances your general feeling well-being. I think everybody will agree that when the sun is shining, people do seem to be in a better mood. It stimulates blood circulation, and it's crucial for the skeletal development, immune function and blood cell formation. So we would suggest maybe 15 to 20 minutes of unprotected sun exposure without the skin reddening and burning per day. It should be sufficient enough for most people to produce the required levels of vitamin D that you need. So what you can see on the screen there is, I think that the short-term damages pretty much all of us may have experienced in our lifetime to date. So, you know, blisters, burn and peeling, and your skin is amazing. It will blister, it will burn and it will peel, and then it repairs itself on the surface. But what we don't see is the long-term damages that it can create, and there's different types of cancers that fall in with that. So you've got basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and then malignant melanoma, which you're probably more familiar with. Sunburn is a skin damage, and your body's response is to try to repair it. So as well as a clear sign that the DNA in your skin cells has been damaged by too much UV radiation, getting sunburn just once every 2 years can triple your risk of melanoma skin cancer. Again, melanoma skin cancer has a higher fatality rate associated with them Basal and squamous cell carcinomas tend to be more surface related, and they can be removed from the skin, although squamous cell carcinomas can onset a secondary cancer, which can form kind of a few years later. What we've got on the screen now is some imaging, and you know, we've done this across multiple sites. And basically what we do is we take a picture of your skin under standard lighting, and then a picture of your skin under UV lighting. And what it will demonstrate is the damage pretty much the skin, the sun has caused to date to your skin. So you can see in the standard image, it's pretty much a clear enough complexion. But under the UV image, you can see where the sun has caused sunspots to damage the skin. And what we would be suggesting is obviously that it's important to wear the adequate protection when going outside, but also to note the areas where you may have a higher concentration of darker spots to the skin. And they may be areas where you would offer more of a protection, or just more of a realization to that particular individual that there is damage currently on the skin. Same with the next image. You can see on the next image in particular around the eyes is where it's starting to get a heavier gathering on the skin. So again, we'd be recommending that you wear an adequate protection or stay out of the sun when it's possible to do so, but also wear eye protection where necessary also. This image, I think it's probably one of the more striking ones. So this lady's actually 21 years old. Under standard image, she has a really, I would suggest, clear complexion, healthy looking complexion, but under UV lighting, you can see the damage the sun has caused to date. So again, all of the darker areas on the skin suggest what the sun has caused to date on the skin. And I think the most frightening part of it is it's irreparable. So every time she goes out in the sun, that will continue to get worse. For myself, this image is the most frightening for me because this is me. So I have extensive damage in around the eye areas of my skin. It would have been something that I would have ignored, particularly when I was younger. Access to to the fitness industry, worked in a gym for a number of years, had complete access to a sunbed that we would use kind of often enough, and I can see now where the damage on my skin actually has surfaced. So there's approximately 1,700 people, that's 5 people per day, get skin cancer from the sun exposure at work. Up to 80% of the sun's harmful rays can pass through the clouds. So we know it's 95% of UVA, it's 5% of UVB, and there is areas of the world that will experience UVC radiation, such as Australia, where there's a thinning in the Earth's ozone layer where it's not fully absorbed. We have a number of case studies that we've done. So we have a 40-year-old bin man. He's had stage 1 melanoma removed from his chest, and what he would do was wear just a high-vis vest without a t-shirt underneath in the summer months. And where he's picked up a sensitivity is obviously in his chest, and that's where the high-vis comes down in a V, and that's where he's had his melanoma removed from. We talk a lot about skin cancer, and it's not all about skin cancer. The sun does age your skin. And on the screen, you can see 2 twin sisters. The lady on the left is an office worker. The lady on the right works in horticulture. And I think, you know, from just looking at the 2 images, there looks like there's about a 10-year age gap between both. Again, just a demonstration of what the sun can do to your skin. And the most striking one then is the next one, which is your lorry driver, where the sun has shone through the side of his the cab in his lorry for over a number of years, and you can see the aging to the skin. So who's most at risk? Everybody is at risk, but there is people that are more at risk than others, and those with fairer skin are more susceptible to a burning or a greater risk. If you have a close relative who has had melanoma, you're more at risk. So it is in your DNA. People with lots of moles, so we'd say more than 50 moles, and we'd suggest to go to a dermatologist and get some mole mapping done just to make sure you keep an eye on that. And then UV radiation, such as that's found in arc welders. So I mentioned that earlier, the arc weld does emit UVC radiation. It can cause burns and lesions to the skin, and it can also be very damaging to the eyes as well. So it's important that we wear the adequate protection. So in best practice, the average size adult should apply at least a teaspoon of sun cream to each arm, leg and back of body, plus a half teaspoon to the face, including the ears and neck. And if it's applied too thinly, the amount of protection is reduced. So it's important that we put enough onto our skin. It's important to use a water-resistant sun cream as well. If you're likely to sweat, obviously you need something that's going to offer that protection. If you do come in contact with water, so if you get into a pool or you get yourself you get yourself wet, it's important to reapply the sun cream. Sun cream should be applied at least 30 minutes before going outside as well, and we'd reapply every 2 hours. Your skin does shed at a phenomenal rate, so nothing will stay on your skin for 24 hours. So it's important to also note that reapplying every 2 hours is really key. What we want to do is not always worry about wearing sun protect, but to follow the 5S approach. So, you know, when we can slip on some sun protective clothing, so something that's got a heavy woven material in it, you know, it's going to offer protection. Slap on an SPF 30 or higher in sunscreen, and I'll explain a little around that in a little bit. Slap on a hat where possible, slide on some sunglasses, and then most importantly, where we can, seek shade. So when are we at risk? Well, what you can see on the screen at the moment is the UV index. And what it demonstrates is where no protection is needed to where extra protection is needed. And there's a multitude of sites that actually demonstrate the current UV. If you've got an iPhone, if you go into the weather app, you scroll down to the bottom of the weather app, you'll see the UV radiation in your area for the day. And once it's 3 or above, you must be wearing sun protect. So if it's overcast, if it's raining outside, you still must wear sun protect. So UV rays are carcinogens to humans. It's not related to temperature, and it can pass through loosely woven material in clouds. The higher the SPF number, the more protection there is from burning caused by UVB radiation. So that's really, really key. Your SPF is only relevant to UVB radiation. And what your SPF actually stands for is sun protection factor. And in industry, we can only accept a minimum of SPF 30. And what that basically demonstrates is everybody's skin burns at a different rate. And if your skin, for instance, was to take 1 minute to burn with no protection, wearing SPF 30 would mean you get 30 minutes in the sun before your SPF actually starts to break down. If you wear SPF 50, you get 50 minutes before it starts to break down. It is really, really important that we understand that SPF is only relevant to UVB radiation. Research shows that UVA rays may be just as important in causing premature skin aging and skin cancer also. We know that UVA rays actually penetrate further into the skin. And what UVA rays will generally do is they will cause immediate kind of burning to the skin. You'll notice that UVB, it will be later on in the day before you actually see the skin burning. But UVA, you generally see a change in the skin earlier. And what we need to look for is a skin protect that has a broad spectrum that will cover UVA protect. So UVA actually must be written on the bottle in order for it to contain UVA protection. Although broad spectrum sunscreens give protection against both, product labeling can be misleading, with the product possibly offering a very low level of UVA protection. And on some protects, what you will see is a star rating. And what it demonstrates is UVA 1 star, it's the lowest level of UVA protect, and UVA 5 star, which is the highest level of UVA protect. So what you would look for is an SPF 30 or above, and something that has a high level, so a high star rating on UVA protect. Each episode of sunburn increases the risk of getting skin cancer. So as I mentioned, the SPF determines how much protection a sunscreen gives when applied to the skin at a thickness of 2 milligrams. You can see SPF 15, so it'd be 15 times whatever your skin naturally burns in, SPF 30 times what your skin naturally burns in, and SPF 50 times what your skin would naturally burn in. In order to be protective, sun creams have to be applied properly and in the right amount. So it takes approximately 35 mils of sun cream for one full body application. and many people do find it's too much when you do apply it. So what we would suggest is that you apply it, and then 30 minutes later when you're actually out in the sun, you reapply. I've just got a small video that I'd like to show you just on a recap on what I've spoken about today.
If you work outdoors, protection against the sun is essential. Long-term exposure to the sun's UV rays can cause skin damage. Whilst it is important to expose our skin to sunlight, it is vitally important that we do not allow the skin to burn. Skin cancer is now the most common type of cancer in the world, yet 90% of all skin cancer deaths are preventable. How much you're at risk depends on your skin type. In general, the fairer your skin, the more at risk you will be. But everyone is at risk to some degree. This guide shows when the World Health Organization recommends application of sun cream. This is usually between around April and October, but is any time when the UV level is 3 or above. Sun cream is only part of the picture. Make sure you stick to the 5S approach. Slip on protective clothing, slop on SPF 30 or higher sun cream, slap on a hat, slide on some sunglasses, seek shade. When it comes to sun cream, more is generally better. The higher the factor, the more protection you will get. A factor of 30 or 50 is recommended for outdoor workers. Make sure you apply enough cream to thoroughly protect you. This guide shows approximately how much is needed for proper protection. Look out for sun cream stations on your site.
Thank you, Karen. Very, very interesting, and some excellent graphics which actually show the extent of the damage that can be done